So here we have Tony Blair at the World Government's Convention 2025, and if that doesn't give you a little sense of dread, then I don't know what will. And he was in conversation with the billionaire Larry Ellison about their future plans to plunge humanity into a dystopian nightmare of surveillance and privacy invasion. On one level, this is deeply disturbing, watching these people chew the fat on this topic. But I did want to outline some of the problems that these people are going to have in implementing this nightmare.
Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
When you come to government and what government's doing, there are artificial intelligence tools, and some of them I know that Oracle have developed around financial management for government. But also, tell us a bit about what, because you're right at the forefront of this revolution, what it means for what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, digital ID, data centers, and so on.
How do you take advantage of these incredible AI models? And the first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. We need to unify all of the national data, put it into a database where it's easily consumable by the AI model, and then ask whatever question you like.
So you're really, through the use of this, you're revolutionizing the way government works, right? The services it provides, the way that it operates. What about things like financial management, procurement? How can AI help a government operate more efficiently, more effectively, give a more direct and better service to the citizen?
Well, we have these modern financial systems. So, countries can, and all. So for example, the AI system will help you do that. But again, the secret is to get all of that data in one place. Without having the basic data, it cannot answer the question about your country. I think countries are very uncomfortable with keeping their data in other countries' data centers. So I think part of our essential infrastructure, just like airports obviously need to be in our country, or they're not terribly useful. Ports need to be in our country, and they're not terribly useful. Data centers, because of the privacy requirements around the data, need to be in our countries, or they're not terribly useful. They need to be in our countries, but they also need to be secure. And there are new technologies right now. This is the last year you will ever log on to an Oracle system with a password. Next, by the middle of this year, I'm quite certain you are Tony Blair. So how do I know? Well, I look at you, I hear your voice, I listen to the kind of questions you ask. I'm pretty sure you're not synthetically created in having this conversation. The security system, we have biometric logins. The computer recognizes you. It recognizes your voice. It might ask you to put your index finger on the return key. And we're absolutely certain it's you. There's no reason to enter a password. In fact, passwords are too easily stolen. The data centers and data is being taken hostage all over the world. The ransomware business is a very, very good business. It's getting bigger and better every year. We tend not to talk about it because the American FBI has a simple advice to someone whose data has been ransomed. Just pay them because there's nothing we can do about it. But there is something we can do about it, not after the data is stolen, but before the data is stolen. We can make sure that we're using the latest security technology, and it is going to be biometrics assisted by AI to make sure that you are in fact Tony Blair, and I'm sure you are.
And there's a basic combination there of the films The Matrix and 1984 all wrapped in to one incredibly bad future for the whole of humanity. A loss of everything that we hold dear, a loss of living your life normally without fear that the government is watching every single thing that you do and has control over every single aspect of your life. And what a horrifying prospect that is, particularly when you consider our current government is led by Keir Starmer. So enough said there. Now, on social media, there is a lot of videos like the one I'm about to show you, which is essentially people panicking, people, over-egging the issue, overcooking their chicken, however you want to put it. But these people on there, I think they're correct in their assumption that this could go to a terribly bad place. But the timeline, I think, is what people have got completely wrong. So here's an example of stuff that is all over social media.
So Keir Starmer is set to announce on this Friday that all adults will be required to carry mandatory digital ID with them. For anyone who hasn't looked into digital ID, you need to, you must. Please, please believe me. There is no greater threat to us and this country right now. Forget immigration. That is a drop in. They're using immigration, illegal immigration, to justify digital ID. Please, please, please look into digital ID. I am genuinely scared. Genuinely scared. If this happens, if this goes through, we are fucked. We're fucked. There is no coming back. We must fight this, and listen to me, we must fight this by any means necessary. This cannot come into force. This cannot come into force. Of course, I have to say peacefully. I have to say peacefully because to speak out about this and say that we want to fight it means that I could go to jail. We have to fight this. We have to. If this goes through, we are done. We are finished. There is no Great Britain. We have to fight this.
So there you have it, and I think you'll agree that he sounded relatively worried, or certainly wants everyone to be worried. Please, 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 you need to understand what's going on, and this is the hill to die on, and forget about immigration, etc. And within that, I think we see the reasons why the Labour Party have decided to bring this very, very unpopular message to the fore at a really, really strange time, at a really, really bad time as well. And I think it's a distraction from what's actually going on. I think the Labour Party have discussed this with some technical people and they've been given the truth. And I'm going to give you how I view it. But they are basically pumping this out in an effort to distract you away from the economy and the immigration problems and the huge amount of problems generally in our society that the Labour Party seem unable to fix. And so, looking at the digital identity blueprint that the World Economic Forum has kindly produced for us, and if you go right the way around here, you'll see that this is a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. I mean, you're talking about smart cities here, and all the rest of, the NGO, humanitarian, travel, food, social platforms, e-commerce. I mean, this vision that they've got is horrifying. Now, if you look at a couple of these things, and one of the reasons why I'm going to try and spell out why I don't think you need to worry about any of this yet, is because of the complexity of what they're attempting to do. Now, Larry Ellison in that video was talking about passwords. I mean, this is all just total garbage. It's not about passwords. It's not about, having your fingerprint on your keyboard or anything like that. Nothing like that at all. This is the number one technical problem currently that all the major tech platforms, including all the crypto platforms, are trying to solve at the moment. And the world's best programmers, all of the brightest geniuses in cryptography and computers and coding, are currently working on this problem, and they're nowhere near finished. And if you just look at the top one there, healthcare, I mean, trying to collate 65 million records into one place, including all hospital records, all dental records, all doctor records, everything to do with your whole history, accessible at a touch of a button from anyone in the healthcare industry, who obviously would have to have the sufficient security permissions to access it. But outside of those concerns there, those privacy concerns that anybody within the healthcare system can have access to every single bit of your data forever. Of course, that could be tiered and it could be fenced off within that. But essentially, within that is a massive project. As well as the security concerns, obviously, because ultimately you're going to be holding stuff like your DNA. Every test you've ever done, what the system believes your future issues could be, healthcare 2.0, every single record. I mean, in 2002, strangely enough, New Labour under Tony Blair tried to start off a brand new healthcare system, and they failed after a decade, just over a decade. They spent £11.5 billion doing it. And they just basically shelved it around 2014 because they couldn't get it together. They couldn't make it work. It was just too big a project, too difficult, too much money was required. So Tony Blair's already failed at this project once. China in 2002 started their current social credit system and a central bank digital currency problem, and they're only just now essentially getting some sort of a grip on it, but it's nowhere near finished either, because this technology that these people are talking about here is not available at the moment. It's not available. Now, you could say one of the newer versions of crypto platform, smart contract platform, something akin to Ethereum, Solana, something like that. If you're into crypto, you would know those names. But something along that line, not Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is just a savings mechanism. We're talking about a fully functioning crypto blockchain that's able to do smart contracts and interact at light speed. And that would be what's required here, because if you're looking at the financial services just to the right of healthcare there, I mean, you're talking about every bank account, all investment platforms, every single financial transaction that happens in the UK, a split second, every single transaction happening in all shops, all supermarkets, you giving your money to mates, whatever it is, every single transaction happening in real time. The transactions a second would have to be topping somewhere in the region of 100, 200,000, something like that per second. That's the type of system we're talking about. This is light speed crypto, and it's not there yet. It is just not there. And that's forgetting, if you go down to the e-government part on the left hand side there, I mean, what you're talking about is every single tax, not just income tax, not just national insurance. You're talking about corporations tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, VAT. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That's not even getting to personal independence payments, universal credit, housing benefit, council tax. I mean, this system here, it requires a brand new internet. a brand new internet. The current internet will not do what Tony wants it to do, thankfully for us. Now, just to, put a cherry on that, eventually it will be available in the next 5 to 10 years. And at that point, this system here doesn't have to necessarily be a dystopian system, because you could actually have a fair system with privacy built in, as we currently have. We could do that. You could make a non-dystopian version of this. But if people tire themselves out with this and run around worrying about this, eventually we're just going to get sick of talking about it. And at that point, they're going to get to bring in whatever they want. Now, what could they do at the moment? Well, they could come out with, a kind of a token faceplate. They could come out with some type of ID, which is linked to your national insurance number card or something like that. They could do that. They could bring that out. But that's just a read database. That's not going to be what they're talking about here. So everyone's going to panic and go, oh, I'm not accepting my ID. Well, the funny thing about that is they won't need you to accept the ID, because it'll be created for you anyway. And at the point where you need it, then they'll go, oh, there it is. Yes, you may have it now. Okay, but you'll be the one that asks the government for your ID, because it'll be something like, oh, you want a new passport, or you want a birth certificate, or you need to pay your taxes, or you need to go on holiday, or whatever it is. When you interact with the state, the next time you interact with the state, they're just going to tell you, oh yeah, you can do all of this, but you're just going to have to use your ID with which to progress it. And people can fight it and they can do what they want, but if the state decides to instigate this, that'll be a different matter. But it will not be Big Brother 1984. It'll just be a card with a number on, probably a national insurance number. So my advice to you, putting all of that there together, is this: don't worry about the digital ID, the dystopian 1984 Tony Blair Matrix version of all of this. Don't worry about all of that. Go about your day. The government's going to create the ID for you, but it's not going to do anything. It will take them a decade at least, and at that point, when they really start to pull the system together, at that point we really will have to have a debate. But the unfortunate thing about technology is this: you can't stop it. Creative destruction happens, and the technological S-curves that immediately jump in, because all technology goes in an S-curve, a little bit, then a lot, and then it kind of plateaus off, and that's where you get the S from on all of the graphs. So when S-curve technology implementation happens, you can do very little to stop it. And a good example is mobile phones. That's the type of thing that this is just going to ride that wave, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. An example of creative destruction could be when everyone was using a horse and cart, and they said, oh, this car thing, this moving pictures thing, this isn't going to catch on. All of these things ultimately get shown at the end of the day that it only goes one way, technology. So unfortunately all of this stuff is coming, but we need to be conscious of the fact that we can make technology work for us. We can make our life easier using technology. Technology can be useful, and you can argue and you can say, oh, well, microwave food's bad for you, whatever it is. But microwaves do make your life easier outside of the health concerns, and you understand my point, is that technology can be used in a positive way to make your life better. And so there's nothing you can do about it really. The only thing we can do is save ourselves for the battle to come. But right now, it's no good worrying about something that's going to be happening in a decade and jumping up and down because the Labour Party's telling you to. We need to be focusing, I believe, on having a country that's going to be worth saving. That's as simple as that. It's no good if we avoid this digital revolution down the road but we don't have a country anymore, or everyone's living in poverty and children are crying in the road and old people are dead in the street, etc. All of this is not going to work out. It's not going to be worth saving if that's the case. And so prioritising the problems is crucial, I think, to moving forward. But please don't worry about digital ID just yet, because nowhere near ready. They won't. My guess would be that this government is so incompetent that they will not even be able to get the actual database card ready in 3 years. That would be my guess. I would imagine it would take too long for them to complete, and it would be too much money, because in order to complete this whole system, you're talking hundreds of billions, even above that, because it's just an incredible project when you look at it like that. But it's nowhere near. And, I hope you take some heart from that, Tony Blair's going to be old and grey when we are having the proper debate about this. And I mean really old and grey. But who knows? Obviously, Tony Blair being Tony Blair, he's probably getting secret medication from the World Economic Forum or something like that to keep him alive. So he can continue to spew his bile into the world as if he hasn't done enough damage to this country. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for your time.